millennial conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you! You are listening to, and damn, I hope you're watching the HoloNet on the mighty, the powerful Mojo 50 Radio. Mojo 50 Radio on your radio dial. And, well, not on the radio dial quite. It's more like on your Spreaker dial, your SoundCloud dial, wherever the hell you're listening to this, or watching my handsome, very kempt, very manicured mug. That's right. Back in video format today. My name is Matt Holloway, your host of the HoloNet on the mighty, the powerful Mojo 50. Today it is Saturday. It is the 26th of February in the year of our Lord 2022. And this week, guys, man, just this week, seriously. We've been calling it, haven't we? Haven't we? Not just here on the HoloNet, but, you know, a couple of different sources on the mighty, powerful Mojo 50. We've been calling it, man, for a couple of months. We've been calling it, man, for a couple of months now. This situation with Ukraine. Dating all the way back to during the Obama administration, during the Trump administration, when all these things were coming out about Ukraine, there were hints, there were glimmers, glimpses, if you will, that old Pooty Poot was going to be up to no good. We all hoped it wouldn't happen, but damn it, it has. And right now, as we stand, as we sit, as we listen, as we watch and wait, Ukrainians are fighting for their lives, for their freedom, for the very existence of their country. Now, there's a lot of scuttlebutt going back and forth either direction on this. RT and Russia have been pumping out the propaganda that we're supposed to believe that the presidency of Volodymyr Zelensky is some sort of Nazi puppet regime. And I'm sorry, I can't get there, man. I can't see my way to that. The evidence is not there. Are there Nazi groups and white supremacist groups in Ukraine? Duh. Are there Nazi groups and white supremacist groups basically everywhere in the world where there are white folks? Yeah. They're usually very small, very fringe, very stupid, for that matter. And if the United States were being invaded today, do you not think these people would be getting on camera holding up swastika flags and clout chasing, trying to look all badass? Of course they would be. It's kind of their shtick, all 20 of them. Ooh, that was my phone. Okay. But here's where it kind of goes off the rails a little bit. There was no justification for Pooty Poot to jump the border and invade a neighboring country while diplomacy was still underway. And this entire episode has done nothing else but finally demonstrate for all the world to see that the United Nations is dead. Dead and stinking. Mark the time of death as February 24th, 2022. Unless I'm getting the date wrong, unless it wound up falling the 23rd when that actual meeting was of the Security Council where everybody but China chimed in to condemn Russia. Russia vetoed it and China abstained, and nothing. The United Nations was utterly incapable of stopping aggression between two European powers. That is like the purpose of the United Nations. The purpose of the United Nations was to prevent the next land war in Europe. Well, sorry guys, you blew it. The EU hasn't been able to help them. NATO. All of these organizations proved their antiquity and their impotence in the last 72 hours. And it's sad. And it's what conservatives and libertarians have been saying the whole damn time. Globalism is not the answer. Government must be more local, not more global. We must govern in our cities, govern in our counties, govern in our states, and it should get less directly impactful to our lives as it moves up, with the penultimate being the nation state. And that's the way it is. I'm sorry. Massive supranational unions like the EU, it's great for a trading bloc. It doesn't work. Now, if the EU actually wanted to fully federate into the United States of Europe, I think that has a chance, modeled after the United States. Never gonna happen. Never gonna. Don't wait for it. Don't look for it. It's not gonna happen. Therefore, these powers will continue to be impotent and continue to be completely unable to resist anything that old Vlad Pooty Poot decides to do. As it sits today, it seems fairly inevitable that one of two things will occur. That's some good American Pride Roasters coffee right there. Either President Volodymyr Zelensky and his valiant underdog Ukrainians will make this hurt so bad for Vladimir Putin and the Russians that they will never consider invading Ukraine again. That they will withdraw, they will go to the negotiating table, and they will come up with a deal that probably involves some territorial concessions from Ukraine. I imagine them probably cutting off the Donbass, splitting it into the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics. I see that as likely. What's also possible is they just kick them so hard in the proverbial nutbag that they send them screaming back over the Dnieper River and they never return. Or, of course, the opposite is absolutely possible. The Russian army under Vladimir Putin is successful in toppling the government of Kyiv. They install a puppet government, and things more or less return to normal. You still have the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, but you have Ukraine under the boot of Moscow once again. These are really the only two things. I do not see the United States getting involved further here. I do not see Europe becoming involved, NATO becoming involved. It's not going to happen. Nobody wants World War III. And I'm not recommending it. I've said it again and again. I do not call for American boots on the ground in Ukraine. And America seems to agree. 26% of Americans feel that we should take an active role in the defense of Ukraine. 26%. That means 74% looked at it and went, no, definitely don't want to get involved in a land war in Europe right now. Which I concur. Another fairly obvious scenario is that this situation creates a scenario... This situation creates a chain of events that allows China to take advantage and waltz straight into Taiwan. Because believe me, Beijing has been looking and watching very carefully at the non-response of NATO, the UN, and the United States. And they're gauging how bad would it hurt for them to waltz into Taipei and just take it back at this point. I say take it back. They never really had it, but you know what I mean. All these things are very likely to come. But there was a very important thing that happened here in the last week. As the pants loads of hit the fan in Ukraine, a lot of conservatives here in the United States said, not our problem. In fact, don't even look at it. Don't worry about it. Don't look at it. We have to continue pushing Washington, D.C. on domestic issues here in the United States because it is not Vladimir Putin who is coming after your freedoms here in the United States. It is Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. and Kamala Harris who are coming after your freedoms in the United States. Not Vladimir Putin. And they're right. They're absolutely right. But neither to the exclusion of the other. And here's what I mean. We live in a globalized world, whether we like it or not. Globalization is failing around us, but we're still intertwined with it. We haven't broken away. Okay? We are not energy independent anymore. Thanks, Joe! We're not materially independent. Thanks, every president going all the way back to, like, I don't know, Eisenhower-ish. We haven't been materially independent or energy independent. We were very briefly energy independent under President Trump, but we haven't largely been in quite some time. What that means is a war in Europe hits Americans in the wallet. A war in Asia hits the American people in the wallet. We feel it on Wall Street. We feel it on Main Street. We feel it at the gas pump. We feel it at the grocery store. All of these things are true. So, do we need to pay more attention and worry domestically about what's going on with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in Congress and all this shenanigans that the Democrat socialists are trying to ram through while nobody's looking? Oh, hell yes. Absolutely. But we cannot ignore what is happening in the outside world. We cannot focus on the foreign to the exclusion of the domestic, nor can we focus on the domestic to the exclusion of the foreign. And that seems to be the very easy dichotomy that most of your talking heads are drawing. And I hate to, pull the nuance bro approach, but yes, we do have to be nuanced. We cannot ignore the outside world yet. I say yet, because honestly, if we develop a level of self-sufficiency, then we can largely do as our founding fathers did and avoid the troubles of Europe and stay out of them, like George Washington advised us to. George Washington, were he alive, would be aghast at NATO and at the UN. America should never be involved that deeply in the affairs of the rest of the world. Being the world police has led us to where we are today. Led us down the road of moral and ethical decay and dependency upon people and polities who don't like us. Am I saying anything odd here? Does any of this sound inaccurate? Let me know. Hit me in the comments. Because I've got segment after segment to go through of what's going on in Ukraine today and what's been going on the last few days with the war. I've got audio and video of the last moments of Zemayev Island. I believe it's either Zemayan or it's Snake Island. Otherwise known as Russian warships go yourself island. Also got a story about the Kyiv ghost. Whether it's real or not, I choose to believe that the Kyiv ghost is real and he's racking up kills in the skies above the Ukrainian capital. Why? It's a feel-good story, man, and you need good morale right now. We have no idea what the actual figures coming out of Ukraine are because we have what's coming across on RT, which is straight up, pure, high-quality bullshit propaganda. I mean, I've watched it. I watched it for pretty much a solid day yesterday. Wow. They lay it on thick. And I mean, like, not thick, but thick. Okay? It's ridiculous. And if you're not watching me on video, you're missing that joke. There's a lot of visual there. But they're not doing it much better on MSNBC or CNN either. I've been bouncing between like France 24, Die Welt, the German outlet, Fox Business, Fox News, who've, of course, got their own little slant to it. I've got pictures, you can look at my timeline, of having 8 to 10 different subscreens set up on my workstation so I can get all the different views and angles on this. Most everybody is saying that Ukraine is giving Russia the fight of their fucking lives. They're making them pay for every inch in blood. Why? Ukraine's got a long cultural memory, baby. The Holodomor ring any bells? This is a nation that was starving while they were producing massive amounts of grain that were being shipped straight to Moscow or out of the country. They were forcibly starved in collective farms. This is a nation that had a large segment of it radioactively poisoned to a certain extent. The area of Pripyat, the Chernobyl exclusionary zone, yeah, that kind of stuff. This is a nation that very much does not want to be a part of Russia for the most part. Now you have eastern and southern sections that have larger Russian polities, that have larger pockets of people who are ethnically Russian that prefer to identify. And has Ukraine handled this wrong? Yeah. Ukraine basically saying, pursuing a policy of Ukrainianization, where Russian isn't taught. It's not an official language. I get it. It was a bad move. They're trying to stamp out Russianness, which is always wrong. Do I buy the accusations of genocide from the Kremlin? I don't see that it's been supported in independent reporting. I really don't. Have there been deaths in the Donbass since 2014? Yes. Have many of them been inflicted by the very separatist forces that Russia's been backing? Yes. Have a lot of them been inflicted by the Ukrainian army as unfortunate crossfire collateral damage? Yes. It's a civil war. It's a frozen conflict, but, well, up until last week, it was a frozen conflict, but it was a conflict nonetheless. That Russia did not have the moral high ground to say, we're going to intervene. And that is what this conflict is about. This is, well, that's at least what Russia's justification is about. What this conflict is actually about is revanchism. It's about regaining what was lost. That is what Putin seems to be all about the legacy and getting one back from Mother Russia. Now, we've gone more than halfway into this without even doing a single ad, so we're going to see if we can snag us up a twofer. I want to tell you about preparewithmojo50.com. Preparewithmojo50.com. It's about preparedness and not panic, and get your 4-week emergency food supply. It is over 2,000 calories a day, 16 varieties of food, up to a 25-year shelf life. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks. Free shipping and handling included. $247. Do it. All right, it's a good thing to do with a little bit of money that you got from your tax return. Think about it, okay? You don't know how the dollar is going to do, what with inflation doing everything it is. You don't know what investments are going to look like. Hell, putting into a savings account is pretty much now. I mean, it doesn't really do anything for you. Get some security. Get some food. Just in case pudding hits fan. Okay? 3-month emergency food supply is even better. It's their best seller and better value. 21 varieties, 25-year shelf life. Foods are all grown here in the USA. It's tasty. It's good stuff. All right? Free shipping and handling, $747. 3-month emergency food supply. Pick one up today. Preparedness and not panic. Preparewithmojo50.com. Preparewithmojo50.com. And I want you to head over to MyPillow. Head over to MyPillow.com. Why? Because poor Mike Lindell, man. This guy cannot catch the slightest sniff of a break. I mean, they hate him. They want him to go away and never come back. And it shows. He's been canceled by more people than I've ever seen pick up ads, okay? You have fantastic deals that are available to you right now through Mojo50.com. Use your promo code Mojo50. Get some fantastic discounts on there. You enter it right at the front of the screen here. I'm actually going to flip it around. Backdrop screen invert. Yeah. You can use your Mojo50, and you can actually get up to 60% off, 66% off on some products, okay? It behooves you to do this. I mean, honestly. Drop out that cartoon avatar. My screen's all borked. Why with the bork? As I don't use this screen very much. Help. I'll fix it later. All right. So, preparewithmojo50.com, mypillow.com. A couple of great sponsor options for Mojo50. Help them out, help us out, help you out, help everybody out. Everybody's happy. So, let's talk Ukraine. Let's see here. Got a good 5 minutes before the end of this segment. So let's hit it. A couple of things to know. Ukraine survived the night. Friday into Saturday, they survived the night. Against all odds. Not a lot of people thought they were going to. President's not dead. He's still fighting. Most recent reports I have in from the Washington Examiner suggest 2 Russian transport planes were shot down around Kyiv in the early morning hours. These were big boys too. Antonov, I believe, IL-76 transport planes. Each aircraft can carry up to 150 troops. So the casualties are getting high for Russia. Another Antonov IL-76 was brought down by air defenses near Bila Skirva, which is 50 miles south of Kiev. U.S. officials corroborated this account. And we've had reports of gunfire erupting in central Kiev. In a video posted to Facebook on Friday night, President Vladimir Zelensky said, "We are all here. Our military are here. Citizens and society are here. We are all here defending our independence, our state, and it will remain so. Glory to our defenders. Glory to our women defenders. Glory to Ukraine." And Zelensky was pressed, apparently, on behalf of the U.S. to evacuate Kiev. He replied, "The fight is here. I need ammunition, not a ride." Now, I get it. This guy's an actor, a comedian, an entertainer, but there's a certain amount of badassery at play here that you have to appreciate. Whether you like him or not, I think he's rising to the occasion. Ukrainians have been defending their capital city as the United States approves $350 million more in aid, including more Javelin missiles. Zelensky said, "We cannot lose the capital." At least 4 dozen explosions were heard in the early morning hours, followed shortly by loud bursts of gunfire, according to Washington Post. And elsewhere in the Black Sea, a Japanese cargo ship, the Nomura Queen, was hit late Friday, docked off the coast of Ukraine. The vessel was damaged and a crew member was injured. The ship, which was docked in Odessa to load grain when it was hit, is now heading toward Turkey so officials can assess its condition. We're actually going to go to a video here my father-in-law sent over to me. Check this crap out. This comes from YouTube channel Chief McCoy. He does a bunch of content about seafaring, and just look at this level of insanity.
Meanwhile, the Moldovan bunker tanker Millennial Spirit was also fired upon by a Russian Navy ship around 12 nautical miles south of Yuzhny port.
Спасение экипажа. 25.02. Millennial Spirit взорвался на рейде на ОПЛ. 3 человека капитана из воды подняли.
Look at that.
Тащим вдоль борта, пока не можем поднять на палубу.
What we're seeing, if you're not able to watch live, is a cargo ship, a cargo bunker ship, in absolute flames.
The tanker was reportedly carrying about 600 tons of diesel fuel on board and was heavily damaged when 2 missiles struck the ship, causing it to burst into flames. The lifeboats were also destroyed, which forced the 10 crew members to jump overboard.
Dang.
2 of them were seriously injured. Dryad has cited unconfirmed reports that the crew were actually Russian nationals. There were also earlier reports of 2 Russian cargo ships that were allegedly attacked, but as of yet remain unverified.
Okay, I'm going to go back in Chief McCoy's video here. That Japanese ship, the Nakamura, this is her right here, I believe.
The other bulk carrier which was attacked on 25th was the Japanese-owned Nomura Queen.
Nomura Queen.
It was hit by a missile while at the Yuzhny anchorage, awaiting to load grains. The ship's superstructure was hit, inflicting serious damage and started a fire, while 2 or more crew members were reportedly injured. As of latest reports, the fire has already been extinguished.
So, Russian forces in the Black Sea are pounding the ever-loving daylights, not just out of the Ukrainians, but also out of shipping in the area. This is absolutely getting insane. You're listening to the Holonet on the mighty, the powerful Mojo 50 Radio. That music means we gotta take a little break. When we come back, we're gonna go to some more stories from Ukraine and some domestic issues as well. You're listening to the Holonet. Stick around.
Lately, USA is getting scarier. Half of the Americans I see all hate America. They hate the cops doing their best to take care of us and kneel for the flag and salt the soldiers that we're burying. I'm tired of the pissing and complaining. Why you living in America if all you do is hate it? You think it's brave to take a stand against the nation? Real bravery is dying for the right so you can say it. Dear America, what happened to Americans? Apparently no one's aware or cares that it's embarrassing. It's arrogance. Our greatest enemy was always slavery and terrorists, and now it's people in the country trying to burn the heritage. I can't help it, I just seem to see the world different. It ain't Republicans or liberals, it's mental illness. The internet is only interested in left opinions. Cancel culture's got more power lately than the First Amendment. If you don't like it, leave. We will not defund police. We don't want no riots in our neighborhoods or in the streets. We respect freedom of speech. We protect what we believe. We don't want nobody dead, so please do not tread on me. In America, your freedom ain't free. In America, got soldiers dying overseas. So America, you say what we believe. My America, I won't ever take a knee. Our freedom is the reason you can disrespect our flag. If my stars and stripes offend you, then I'll help you back your bags. America, does anybody know what the hell happened to the Patriots? Lately this nation is so ashamed and hating itself. Did everyone forget that people died to pay for this? Ungratefulness, United States gave everything to you just to help. I just want to celebrate Thanksgiving with my family. I don't need your help to understand it was a tragedy. Can I just be thankful for my country eating happily without you trying to guilt me for the genocide and casualties? I can't help it, I just seem to see the world different. It ain't black or white, it's conflict designed by the system. I don't need your pronouns, all I see is men and women. Kids are taking pills for fun while people can't afford prescriptions. If you don't like it, go. Hate it, then don't call it home. We don't need no violence, got no time for all you radicals. Screw your status quo, we're the animals. I won't kneel for the anthem, cause the flag is what I'm standing for. In America, your freedom ain't free. In America, got soldiers dying overseas. So America, you say what we believe. My America, I won't ever take a knee. Our freedom is the reason you can disrespect our flag. If my stars and stripes offend you, then I'll help you back your bags. America, you can hate the government and still love the country. The fundamental values of America are concrete. Republicans and liberals are dumb, to put it bluntly. They're labels that they use to create chaos and corruption. You can know the history and still be proud of where you're from. Every flag around the world is covered in a little blood. We started out United States, divided is what we've become. If home is where the heart is, you should show America some love. In America, your freedom ain't free. In America, got soldiers dying overseas. So America, you say what we believe. My America, I won't ever take a knee. Our freedom is the reason you can disrespect our flag. If my stars and stripes offend you, then I'll help you back your bags. America.
You're listening to The Holonet on Mojo 50 Radio. The millennial conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
And we're back. You're listening to Holonet on the mighty powerful Mojo 50 Radio. I am your host, Matt Holloway, and if you were watching this on video, what you just heard was America by Tom McDonald, video by Nova Rockefeller. Fantastic song. One that really hits me in my heart. And you know, a lot of people think I just kind of get on here and I wing it every Saturday. It's not completely true. I always have a show plan in mind. I always have a set of links pulled up. I very frequently don't get through all of them. I mean, that's just kind of the way of it with radio. You get on a topic, you get on a track, and you keep rolling. It keeps things natural, and it keeps it conversational, and that tends to be what people respond to, at least in my experience. But today we're going off the rails a little bit. And it's mainly because while we're all looking at the situation that's unfolding in Ukraine and you know, the riots and not riots, but protests that are unfolding, excuse the pop there, the protests that are unfolding all over Russia right now across 50 cities from St. Petersburg to Novosibirsk to Vladivostok, across 11 different time zones, thousands upon thousands of Russian people taking to the streets because they feel a sense of kinship and brotherhood to the Ukrainian people, and they're outraged that Moscow has taken them to war with people they deem as their brothers and sisters. 1,700 people so far, Russian citizens so far, have been arrested. And you think the U.S. government cracks down hard? You think Justin Trudeau cracked down hard on the Freedom Convoy? Ooh, boy, you have no idea what is going to happen to these people in Russian jail for fighting against the government. Alexei Navalny, ring any friggin' bells? They kill you. They f***ing kill you in Russia for this. Right now in the U.S., we have the Freedom Convoy, or the People's Convoy. I always thought that sounded a little too commie, but the Freedom Convoy on its way to D.C. Washington, D.C.'s got 700 troops on standby, apparently, and some, I think it was 50 armored vehicles in order to help with traffic. Yeah, you don't call in the Army to do traffic control. You do not call in the National Guard to issue parking tickets and wave people through checkpoints. That's not the way it works, okay? We have some severe problems here in the U.S. domestically that we can't lose sight of, that we can't ignore. But we have to look at Ukraine, we have to look at what's going on in Russia, and we have to say, how do we prevent that from happening here? Because, God, we're getting close, aren't we? Aren't we just? We're getting a little too close for comfort. We're looking at Su-37s, and I'm probably getting that designation wrong, and MiG-29s buzzing the skies of Ukraine, blowing up, bombing buildings, crashing into the ground, shells falling, exploding, bodies broken all over the place, soldiers surrendering, getting into gunfights in the streets, and I'm going, how long until that's Olathe, Kansas? How long until that's Scottsdale, Arizona? How long until that's Paducah, Kentucky, or Intercourse, Pennsylvania? Sorry, I had to throw one funny one in there. How long until that is the streets of the United States? And it's not going to be this left versus right. We're going to do a peaceful divorce now. We're gonna separate the country on the red versus the blue. I don't know why I'm doing a voice like Barney the Purple Dinosaur, but I am. It's not going to be like that. We've been through this. You can't break up this country along partisan lines. What it winds up being is people are going to be caught behind enemy lines. It's going to be sectarian, block by block, county by county, census district by census district, guerrilla, nasty insurrection fighting if we don't stop. If we don't prevent it from getting there. And we're running out of rail, folks. You know, Beck, the, what does he call himself? Optimistic catastrophist? I've listened to Glenn Beck for years, but I don't listen to him that much anymore just because it got too bad. It got too much of the same, and, you know, he's not wrong. And I find myself saying a lot of the same things because when we actually talk to people, when we actually meet up with our neighbors and sit down for a game night and play, 15 rounds of Phase 10 or gin rummy or poker, we're not the people that we are online, but we don't see that anymore. And I love the fact that I had a conversation with friends just last night, and this came up, that we are not as bad as we are online. But because we're online all the time, because we're on social media, this poison that's injected directly into our veins all day, every day, this dopamine high, we think we are. We think we are the worst versions of ourselves and each other. So we've systematically eliminated any middle ground in between the right and the left. I was talking about the need to diversify our parties. I think one of the biggest antitrust battles this country absolutely needs to wage is breaking up the parties. I know I'm going to get drummed out of the Republican Party for this. People are going to get so pissed at me, but it's true. The only way that I think we can pull back and start getting into a mode in government where we're forced to compromise is by breaking into smaller parties. I think that would foster greater representation for sideline groups. I think it would foster greater national unity because we would be forced to come together in order to accomplish anything. The Republicans, like you'd have the rump states of the Republican and Democrat parties, but then you also have smaller parties that break off of them, that peel off of them. Like, I see no reason why the Congressional Black Caucus cannot form its own party to emphasize the needs of Black Americans. Not Republican, not Democrat, just if you really want to jump on that identity, racial politics bandwagon, there you go. And you can have a party specifically for that. They'll only ever have like 4 or 5 seats in Congress, tops. But then they can use those seats in a clutch moment to exact concessions from one of the bigger parties. And that's the way it works in coalition politics, in like the parliamentary system in the UK and in the Bundesrat in Germany. I'm not suggesting we mimic their systems. I'm suggesting we have a little more ideological diversity. Because right now, the dialectic is literally going to start killing us. Literally going to be killing us. Because we've reached a point where people who identify themselves as on the left, people who identify themselves on the right, we now live in parallel realities that do not intersect much. We can't agree on simple, observable, objective truth, and there's nothing you're going to do or say that is going to change the mind of the most dyed-in-the-wool radical. And you need to accept that and move on. So now we need to go to how do we live with them without compromising our own values. And aside from geographical separation and segmentation and balkanization, as it were, which is already happening with the Great Migration, we're going to have to learn to live with each other. Either that or we're going to have to start fighting. Which, you want to see you really want to see how that plays out? Let me show you. Got a story here that I put together. And I've been watching 72 Hours of War. So, if I'm a little salty about this, that's why. This is the Russian cruiser Moskva, actually. Means Moscow. Let me get my avatar off of here. There I am. All right. This is off the coast of Snake Island. 13 Ukrainian border guard soldiers were brutally killed when Russian warships, the missile cruiser RTS Moskva and the patrol ship Vasily Baikov, bombarded the tiny island they defended that held merely their garrison, a radio tower, a 150-year-old lighthouse, and the vacant settlement of Bile. Before they were ruthlessly killed by the Russian warships, they posed absolutely zero threat to. They had small arms. What are they going to do, throw rocks at it? They uttered a response to demands for their surrender that will echo through the history as one of the most tragic and brave moments of the Russo-Ukrainian War. The final defiant stand took place at the small garrison on Zimny, or Snake Island, in the Black Sea, a 42-acre islet about 9.2 miles off the Ukrainian coast near the maritime border with Romania, with little strategic value other than providing an economic exclusionary zone, or EEZ, to Ukraine in the Black Sea. In a radio exchange shared on Twitter, a Russian officer, likely aboard Moskva, says, "This is a military warship. This is a Russian military warship. I suggest you lay down your weapons and surrender to avoid bloodshed and needless casualties. Otherwise, you will be bombed." Ukrainian soldiers can be heard conversing with one another, with the main speaker asking, "Should I tell him?" and a second replying, "Just in case." Turning up the volume on the dial, the Ukrainian soldier, in an act of courageous defiance, replied to him, "Russian warship, go f*** yourself." Here's the audio.
Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться во избежание кровопролития и неоправданных жертв. В противном случае по вам будет нанесен бомбово-штурмовой удар. Длинный остров. Я будет нанесен удар. Как поняли меня? Прием. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
And there you have it. In the moments prior to the bombardment of the island, one of the Ukrainian soldiers posted to the Telegram channel, not pronouncing that, Exia Odeska, I think, news of Odessa and the region, bright content, 24/7, no censorship, a lot of trash. The final moments of the garrison in 2 videos. In the first, Moskva can clearly be seen and heard addressing the defenders on radio. After the initial bombardment, the unidentified soldier is heard to say he thought the warship was, quote, just trying to scare us, to another who added nothing was destroyed, just before they were likely killed by incoming fire.
Москва. 200 метров, ракетный катер. Россия. Вот так вот мы тут и живем, блядь, на острове Змеином.
Every one of those 13 soldiers that were on the island were killed to a man. Here's the tragedy. That was the moment when the Russian vessel opened fire. President Vladimir Zelensky, in a statement to the press, said, "On our Zeminya island, defending it to the last, all the border guards died heroically," he continued, "but did not give up. All of them will be posthumously awarded title of Hero of Ukraine. May the memory of those who gave their lives for Ukraine live forever." So, folks, stories like that are what we can look forward to if we lose sight of either our domestic issues or our foreign issues. If we lose sight of our foreign issues, yes, there will be a foreign power eventually knocking at the door here in the United States. If we lose sight of our domestic issues, it will be our own damned government in the role of the Russian soldiers just there. Or it may be a state that's larger than yours and has a better equipped National Guard. I don't know. But what this Ukrainian struggle should tell us is we have 2 current sets of responsibilities. One, supporting freedom in the world. And I don't mean jumping up and sending our men and women to die. I mean actively supporting it. And that means not relying upon the United Nations to do it for us, not relying on NATO or anybody else to do it for us. There's no reason why Russia hasn't been removed from the SWIFT banking system, except that Europe doesn't have the balls. Point blank. Do we have a moral responsibility to help out Ukraine? Because they surrendered their nuclear weapons when we asked them to? I believe we do. And I believe that the lethal aid we were sending to them, which began under President Trump, continued under Biden, is highly necessary. I believe that NATO should probably consider a no-fly zone over Ukraine. But it all has to be done incredibly carefully. Because nobody wants to risk war with Russia. We do not want to go to war with the Russian people. Just like we don't want to go to war with the Chinese people. We do not want to let this kick off the next world war. Nor do we want to simply leave the Ukrainian people to their fate, so we are in a very difficult position. There are people out there that say Putin's out there doing God's work and that he's the good guy in all of this, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. When I see things like that, you can tell me all you want how Vladimir Zelensky and his government weren't abiding to the Minsk agreement. And I can point to the fact that the so-called Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics weren't abiding by it either. That being said, it does not fall to Russia in order to police that. It's not their conflict. Would it be right for the United States to militarily intervene in Mexico? for a similar situation? Well, there's a debate to be had there. I would say no, not unless we're invited. What I think we're facing is we are too far removed from the true horrors of the last great total wars. I say great, they weren't great, I mean at large scale, size. World War II was a very long time ago. World War I was over a century ago now. Too many have forgotten. Or simply didn't learn in the first place. That there's a price for larger, more powerful nations imposing their wills and their morals and their ethical codes on smaller ones. I'm afraid it is a lesson that our world has forgotten, and it is a lesson that we are very painfully going to have to learn again. And I only hope we don't learn it here on the streets of the United States. Story out right now from the Examiner. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's Breitbart. Piece written by John Nolte. Nolte writes, this coming Tuesday, His Fraudulency, Joe Biden, will make his State of the Union address and do so after he has spent the last year plunging both America and the world into chaos. Because do I believe that under President Donald Trump this invasion of Ukraine never would have happened? Yes, I honestly do believe it. I honestly do. I don't think Putin ever would have tried. Because Biden demonstrated his fecklessness and his weakness in Afghanistan. And the Democrats did before that in 2014 with Crimea and with the Red Line in Syria. Nolte writes, how both he and the misinformation media will try to gaslight us into believing differently is now painfully obvious. We're going to hear a lot about jobs created when they weren't, when jobs were annihilated and then some of them were brought back, but not all of them, and a lot of people just decided to stop looking. About how many people have been vaccinated, but not the fact that more died under Biden and Trump, and not the fact that increasing numbers of people are getting sick and getting hospitalized with the shot. Yeah, never mind that, huh? We'll be told it's only a coincidence that the CDC suddenly realized that the science would allow us to unmask just days before his speech. We'll also be told that the adults are back in charge. We'll be told that Biden is a true statesman and so on and so forth. And they'll spin and lie and spin. Nolte's totally right here. We need to remember, for that State of the Union, this Freedom Convoy is supposed to be rolling straight up to Washington, D.C. And why are they rolling up to Washington, D.C.? Because vaccination mandates are still going strong in a lot of places. 1,400 employees of New York City lost their jobs. Some 4,000 employees of Los Angeles County lost their jobs. There are unemployed Americans right now whose only disqualification is that they chose to uphold their own bodily autonomy. That's it. Nolte writes, after 4 years of economic growth, record low unemployment, and every sign of a V-shaped post-pandemic recovery, Biden plunged us into the economic crisis of record inflation, supply chain snarls, a faltering Wall Street, and a dying Main Street. And now, I'm adding this, war. Impending war. While we leave our allies to twist, with token numbers of American soldiers being sent to our Eastern NATO partners, and no real help other than material resupply heading to Ukraine. President Trump, for all his bluster, I think, would have steamed a carrier strike group straight into the Black Sea. Parked it off the coast of Sevastopol, and told the Kremlin, your move. And that's the kind of diplomacy that would have stopped this in its tracks. That is called gunboat diplomacy. That is called a fleet in being, by the way. If you're not familiar with that concept, I'm going to throw you back to World War II here. A fleet in being. Actually, I should be able to pull that up here. Here's our example. A fleet in being, yes, I'm going to go to Wiki for here. Best example is the German Kriegsmarine battleship Tirpitz, which served her entire career as being a fleet in being in her own right. Never fired a shot at the enemy, but her mere presence in the Norwegian fjords forced the Royal Navy and her allies to allocate powerful warships in defending their Arctic convoys. So she never did anything. She never fired a shot, but the mere presence forced the allies to change war plans. This is what a strategic thinker does. This is what I think President Trump would have done. He would have parked a full carrier strike group at Crimea, just offshore, finger-flipping distance away. And that would have given Putin some serious pause. You know, Ukraine being a friendly body, start flying air patrols just over Ukrainian airspace. Just training exercises of about 150 F-16s at a time. Do you really think that he would have gone forward? Do a troop buildup. Not in Poland. And don't say, oh, it's just NATO. And don't telegraph that we're not sending troops into Ukraine under any circumstances. Why, in God's eyes, would you actually telegraph that except to give the green light? Think about it. That is not how you deter aggression. And that is what Biden should have been doing. That is what our government and our military should have been doing. That is what we could have done for the people of Ukraine to avert this disaster. If this had been handled right, there would be no need to put troops on the ground to protect Kyiv. It wouldn't need protecting. Would it have amped up tensions? Yeah. Would those tensions be higher than they are now? No. But this government, this feckless, powerless, cowardly government of ours, under the Biden-Harris regime, a government that I will attest to my dying day was not constitutionally elected in this country. Throw me off YouTube, throw me off Facebook. It seems to be what all the cool kids are doing these days, okay? That man was not constitutionally elected the President of the United States of America. Joseph Robinette Jr. has no right to sit in the Oval Office right now. Full stop. Okay? But he is. And we have to live in the world wrought of the consequences of that fact. At least until he isn't anymore. Which is why Ann Coulter, Charlie Kirk, they're partly right. That, stop burying yourself in the news of everything that's going on in Ukraine. It doesn't directly affect you. Pay attention to it. Pray for them. Pray for them. If you have family there, reach out to them. See if they're getting out. By all means, say prayers for them. Worry about them. Think on them. But don't allow your attention to be seized. We cannot, as Americans, have the 30-second attention span and the massive case of collective attention deficit disorder. We cannot be seized by the jingling keys that are placed in front of our faces here. By the 24/7, 365 in-your-face news cycle. Don't let it take your attention away from the cold, hard facts on the ground here in the United States of America, where your freedoms are at risk, where people are actively trying to take away your Second Amendment rights, your First Amendment rights, your ability to vote in a fair and free election, where election integrity is not something that currently exists in any real form, where the battle is to be fought here. The rhetorical battle, the political battle, the battle of wits and the battle of laws. So it doesn't become the battle of bullets and the battle of bombs like it is today in Ukraine. All right, guys, gals, friends, neighbors, countrymen, lend me your ears. Before we go, I did want to ask you to check out our buddies over at American Pride Roasters. It's historically great coffee over there at American Pride Roasters. They do not yet have the HoloNet fuel. I do not know why DM continues to not make my coffee. It angers me greatly. But you have a lot of other great coffees on here. Time for choosing: the Frederick Douglass, the Washington, the Silent Cow. On the Roof, $20, same as downtown. The Defender's Light, the Off-Track Blend. Silent Cow's 3-pound box. Calvin Coolidge, JPR Gold. All right. Support them. Also get over there and support Romika Designs with their insane custom tumblers. Good friends of the program. Help out El Rondo. Folks, good night. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Where's my music? There it is. Good night. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. From Phoenix, Arizona, I'm your host, Matt Holloway. End transmission.